Hello and welcome to the February 2021 layout update from the Trent Valley Railway. In this update, we'll take a look at the work on the tunnel portals to fill in the gaps and the joins for the retaining wall. There's plenty of work on building up the scenery on top of the tunnels. Next job up there now is to add some static grass and start to build up the area there. And I also start work on the embankment next to the main line. But this is just very much the start of the embankment that will run alongside the main line. Welcome to this month's layout update. A huge thank you to all the new subscribers to the channel. I hope you enjoy this layout update, which is very much all about starting the scenery work on the main lines. Right, I've begun constructing the area around the tunnel portals. So I've used some spare offcuts of the baseboards that I've been using. I've also used then some spare cuts of the PSE timber, and there's 3 support posts within the structure, as well as then some backing boards at the edge so that I can build up the scenery on the top of this to the top of those boards. So I've cut it around the back scene and also filled in the last very small gap at the end of the retaining wall onto the back of the container depot. So I've done all the sort of baseboard woodwork here. What I do need to do though is to just build the inside walls now of the tunnel underneath, glue these portals as they are onto the back of the baseboard here structure, so make sure that they're all part of this piece of scenery then, and I can look to finish this bit off as well. I've made more progress on the tunnel area here. I've put the walls inside of the portals now, spray painted those black, so that's just made up again with some more baseboard sections. And then with this structure now completed on the inside, I've glued the portals to the edge of the baseboard and also the retaining walls right up to the very back. So this is all now completed from the front area with the portals and also the retaining wall, and then this gap here on the end will be where the embankment starts to continue alongside the main line. So eventually I'll join that up with the other bit of scenery. Just before this I also said I've got the OLE in here. Let's now take a look at that inside the tunnel. This is the area underneath the tunnels. The tunnel portals go across there where you can see the chalk marks on the baseboard, and I've just simply put in 2 extra stanchions for the OLE inside the tunnel. Now because this is going off scene as a scenic break, you'll note that these, well, the middle one is obviously pointing the wrong way, and the other one is quite far away as well from the actual line, and the reason for this is really to make sure that those 2 catenary wires between the masts look sort of parallel, and to give the impression that this corner here isn't really a corner, and as we look back now you'll see hopefully it gives that impression going into the tunnel portal. Hopefully this is a good angle then to look at this, so the catenary wires don't look too bad in terms of the appearance as they're going into the tunnel portals. Obviously it is dark in there so you can't really see the wires anyhow, but only if you probably came all the way over here, which is very unlikely from obviously the viewing angle that I'm at. Can you see that there's obviously light at the end of the tunnel? So most shots will come from around about here, and pleased so far. Next task is now to start building up the scenery on top of the tunnel. I have continued making progress here, so now I've glued the tunnel portals and the retaining walls onto the structure. Behind that, you'll also note that I've got the mod rock in. This has just got newspaper scrunched up underneath this to create the landscape there, and it all falls down towards then obviously the back of the retained structure. The gap here, I'll continue obviously the embankment down the side of the running line. But I've also then used the pot of plaster that I'd got as well to fill in the gaps and the joins for the retaining wall and adjoining it to the tunnel portals. So there shouldn't be any visible joins. Now I've also marked back up the brickwork, and the next stage is here now is to use some earth colours kit for the tunnels and the brickwork, and I've also then got to put an undercoat on for the top of this mod rock as well before I start adding some green scenery. Work in progress for painting up the tunnel portals with the Woodland Scenics pigment colours. I've got the sort of main colours now on around obviously the tunnel portals, and I wanted those to be a lot darker than the retaining walls on the outside to sort of represent a bit of sort of weathering, but also some of the sort of diesel smoke from the locos. And then around the side I've also done the walls onto the edge of the container depot, and I've slightly got a different colour as well of the darker pigment for the top slabs on top of the retaining wall and portals. So I've just got to put a bit of a black wash over the top of this to bring out some of the sort of brickwork features. But the next thing, and on top here, is I'm going to start putting some fine turf grass down, and you'll note here that I've also put the undercoat of earth colour on top of the plaster. So I'm happy with this at the moment. There's probably a bit of extra touching up to do on the sides there, where you can see I started off a lot lighter with the pigments, but we'll show you the next part of this update how this is continuing to be progressed. This is now how the tunnel portal and the sort of mound on top of it is shaping up around with the back scenes in the background. I've added on a black wash onto the tunnel portal and the retaining walls. I'm now going to just add one last final layer of scenic cement over the top of that. And you'll also note I've got some Woodland Scenics fine turf on top of the tunnel portal area. From this angle, obviously it's just in front of then the warehouse on the back scene. What I'll also show you now is the other bit of sort of preparation work for putting in some more boards along the edge of this scenic section, ready to continue this and hopefully start some more mod rock in this area alongside the main lines as I continue with the scenery. That was the side-on view, and if we get closer in here, I'm very happy how the different tones of grey, I use stone grey and the very dark slate colours, and with the mound behind, yes, it's very green at the moment, but our next job up there now is to add some static grass and start to build up the area there, hopefully get some trees on that as well. But what I've also just finished doing is continuing a bit of a sort of outer board here on the outside, so that I can bring the mod rock and join it onto the bit that I've just done there into this gap here, and start to create the embankment from the track up to the top of this board. And I'll also start to do a small bit of then the sort of grass area, and put the base down in between the container depot and the main running lines. So hopefully more progress coming up shortly. I've been first of all concentrating the progress on adding the static grass to the top of here. So this is the outcome of the static grass, and this is just the sort of first layer maybe, but I'm quite happy from a sort of visual perspective in person of how this already looks. But I will, as I mentioned a minute ago, be adding probably some bushes and some trees onto this area at the top. So to create that whole section on top of there, I first of all used the earth undercoat pigment colours. I then put some fine turf down from Woodland Scenics, but I've also then used the 4mm static grass in light green, and then the Green Scenes long fibres at 6mm. And so what I've used as my static grass applicator is the Green Scenes Flock It. So I've used that over the top of that area, and then the last thing I've done is sealed it in with some matte varnish sealer. So progress is quite good there. I'm going to now start doing a little bit of work, probably then finish off this month's update with a little bit of work around the tunnel portals for a bit of ballast and a bit more mod rock. I have now made some more progress to begin linking in the area I've done around the tunnel portal and the greenery on top of that, to bring the mod rock alongside in that area where I'd put up the edge of the baseboards here, so I can build this up. And I've also painted the edge of this black, so covers up any of the lower level when I'm looking at this from a side on view. But this is just very much the start of the embankment that will run alongside the main line. And what I've also been doing in here is starting some sort of smaller detail in the middle between the two tracks. That won't have any ballast on then, that will have a bit of probably dead grass and weeds in that area. There's a catch pit in the middle there, and also one at the bottom of this embankment, and there will be those carrying on lines alongside the main line. What I've also done here is started to prepare for the ballast, and I thought I might be able to get this done, but that'll have to be next month's layout update now, because I've been just cutting away at the sides of the cork on both of these lines, and just making sure that the sort of shoulder of the ballast can come down either side before you get to some of the like OLE masts and the edge of the earthwork, but also the cable trunking, which I've also put in now and into the tunnel. So whilst I've been doing this, I have made a few marks onto the tunnel portal and the retaining walls, which I will colour back up once I've done the other work here. But for now, thank you very much for watching this layout update. Stay tuned for more progress from the Trent Valley Railway. Cheers.